In a franchise like FNAF, there is an endless number of mysteries that have never been solved. Scott has left us clues, and we just aren't able to put the pieces together and solve the puzzle. And one of those unsolved puzzles is who the mastermind is that revived Fazbear Entertainment and set into motion the next era of Five Nights at Freddy's. So in today's video, I want to take you on a journey. I want to take a step back and take a proper look at some of the more recent games, starting with Help Wanted the first, and uncover more about this unknown villain. Now, Help Wanted is a very confusing game, and this may come as a surprise to you because the game presents itself as very straightforward, but just listen to the opening ride monologue.
And while it's true that some stories associated with our name were loosely based on actual events, the majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
Fazbear Entertainment blamed some misleading games as bad PR from a rogue indie game developer, which we later learned was hired by Fazbear Entertainment.
Fazbear Entertainment hired the game developer. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up, a campaign to discredit everything.
Wait, what? So some random developer made games about FNAF? It's confusing on its own, but luckily the books have a helpful answer. According to the story Help Wanted, a developer by the name of Steve Snodgrass is tricked and forced by Fazbear Entertainment to make 4 games that are designed to cover up the dark history of Fazbear. He's kidnapped and forced to live under the constant stress caused by illusion discs that cause him to believe that he has a family, and that if he doesn't take the game developer job with Fazbear Entertainment, they will lose their house. So he accepts it and begins his work. Later, Steve finds out that his family are actually robots, and that all of this was fake before getting killed by his robot wife. So in summary, Fazbear Entertainment kidnapped a game developer and forced him to work on some games that would be released in some elaborate cover-up. Does any of this sound familiar? This is all from that one theory that everyone, including me, got mad at Matpat for 9 months ago. Matpat was trying to suggest that the original 4 games we play are actually just video games and not telling the real story of FNAF. At the moment, I was outraged at a suggestion that the first 4 games could be false video games. However, it hit me that Matpat may have been on the right track. But one thing that he did leave out of his theory was that Steve Snodgrass never completed the 4th game. So let's take a look at the lineup within Help Wanted. The first 3 FNAF games are very similar to how they're played in their original games, but the 4th is instead night terrors and not the traditional FNAF 4 gameplay. Something that a company like Fazbear Entertainment would do if their lead developer suddenly dropped the project and they had to improvise. Or, crazy enough, this is where history doesn't overlap. As a theoretical, let's pretend that the 4 were made by the developer mentioned and that they were very similar to the Help Wanted versions. Let's say these 4 games were released to the public, and as a part of their master plan, they made the Help Wanted VR game as a way to swipe everything under the rug. Notice these key differences. The Help Wanted games feature none of the cutscenes and lore bits that we see in the original 4 games. There's no "it's me" feeding cake to the children, or any of the FNAF 3 post scenes. So consider this. What if the original games were made by this developer never contained these? Sure, they played similarly, but they never had the same Easter eggs or were trying to give us the lore like what Scott made back in 2014 and 2015. Scott wasn't trying to get rid of the old games or discredit them, but rather give merit to this massive comeback Fazbear Entertainment is trying to achieve. Whether you want to hear it or not, someone is pushing hard for Freddy Fazbear to return, and it's in a big way. Hiring a studio to make a VR game isn't cheap. Whoever's behind this is committing massive dollars and time to get things right. They're willing to let these games by the developer release and then have Help Wanted be the saving grace to clear their name. This mysterious figure behind it all is super smart, but what if I told you they were also super familiar with the dark history of Freddy Fazbear's? One thing that I have to give credit to FNAF, the YouTuber, is that, like he said, he is super observant.
One of the things I love to do when making FNAF theories is look for the little details that help solve the greater story. I feel like that's something I'm good at.
Recent examples include his journey to find out what the Nightmare on plushies mean, and his observation that the current games follow the original FNAF trilogy story. So I decided to take a note from his playbook and just start walking around the Pizzaplex and trying to find things that confused me. Anything that would help in my quest to better understand the true villain of FNAF. And then I found it. The one stupid cutout that would send my mind spiraling. While Rockstar Row is the home of the Glamrock animatronics, it's also the home of some ancient FNAF memorabilia. Some confusing FNAF memorabilia is probably the better description, considering the fact that we find 2 toys from the FNAF 4/Night Terror's bedroom in there, and another display depicts something equally as frustrating, a cardboard cutout of Ennard. Now this may seem harmless, Ennard is a large part of the FNAF lore, but how about from an in-game perspective? Ennard is an amalgamation of the Fun Times and scoops Michael Afton to use him as a suit, but when he becomes too worn, they get vomited out. At some point down the road, Baby gets kicked out of the group and becomes Scrap Baby, while the rest form into Molten Freddy. Then, they are both burned in the FNAF 6 fire, so what's confusing? Well, no one should know about Ennard, right? Looking back at Sister Location, Ennard escapes after Night 5 before his explosive exit from Mike's body. So how would anyone in the current Fazbear Entertainment company know about Ennard? The only people who would know are presumably Michael Afton and maybe Henry, who are both dead. As far as I can tell, no one else should know about the existence of Ennard, and the only thing that they left behind was their shells. They wouldn't have a near perfect image of Ennard, so how would someone know about it? Well, listen to what Baby mentions in this clip.
I'll open the faceplates for you. That way they can find you on the cameras.
There is a functioning camera system within the underground Circus Baby's facility. The camera system presumably works because Baby depends on people watching it to find us, and considering we make it back for the next night, I would say it's functioning. So in my opinion, the only way for someone to get a glimpse of Ennard and know what he looks like to include him in some VR spin-off game and a cardboard cutout would be through this camera system. Trust me, I brainstormed for hours, and the only theory that I could put together that was in any way plausible was that someone had seen security camera footage of Ennard. Notice how the security cameras that Baby mentions are in the scooping room where Michael is scooped, and there may be an angle at which someone could see Ennard. Ennard's inclusion with this all feels deliberate because this character makes the least amount of sense to include. Practically no one knows about its existence. Why couldn't they have used someone like Nightmare Yon or someone else? Ennard just doesn't make sense unless someone within this new Fazbear Entertainment company has a history or access to Afton Robotics footage or perhaps Henry's files. However, my entire theory hinges on the idea that Help Wanted was a game that got released to the public, and that's why it's included within this exhibit. Someone told the dev studio to include Ennard in Ennard's Vent Repair mission, and it needs to be seen by the public for his cutout to make sense. Considering a recreation of Help Wanted's main stage is on the opposite side of Rockstar Row, we have to confirm this game's existence. So, did Help Wanted release as a game within the game's universe? Yes, but it's not outright confirmed in Security Breach, but rather it's DLC Ruin. One of the core mechanics of Ruin is the usage of the Vanny mask. This mask lets us enter what I believe to be a corrupted version of an actual fast technician network that was developed for employees. Within the mask, you can find tons of little boxes containing AR collectibles scattered throughout the place. They range from piñatas to lunchboxes to plushies and masks. What makes these so interesting is that each of them gets a small description, presumably from Cassie's point of view. One of the descriptions that immediately caught my attention was Nightmare Yon's. It reads, "It's from that old headset game," which was exactly what I needed to confirm my theory. That old headset game Cassie is mentioning is Help Wanted. So Fazbear Entertainment does release a VR game to the public containing Ennard, which then grants him a cutout within Rockstar Row, but it doesn't make sense because no one's supposed to know he exists. Wow, that's a lot. So what's the point? Well, what I'm trying to say is that someone within Fazbear Entertainment is familiar with the old era of FNAF. It's the only way any of this makes sense. Now, I know Matpat has previously suggested that the true villain and mastermind of these past few games is Mrs. Afton. Now, I don't really believe it's her, but I completely understand why he had that thought. With what seems to be a recreation of the Afton family in the basement, how could you not jump to that conclusion? So who else can be our villain? Now, I already know what some of you are angrily typing in the comment section about how we already have a villain, the Mimic. Well, I'm not entirely satisfied with that answer. The Mimic is a brutal and vicious killing machine, no doubt in my mind. However, the Mimic can't build a mall over the FNAF 6 location, the Mimic can't hire Vanessa as the head of security despite having 0 qualifications for the job, the Mimic can't set up what seems to be the Afton family having dinner, the Mimic can't send weird circuit boards containing harmful programs, and the Mimic can't put the word prototype on the bottom of Glamrock Freddy's foot. The Mimic is cool, but he's not the final answer. There is indeed someone else in play and they are motivated to do something, but that's the issue. I have no idea what. If I was to say putting together the Afton family, it wouldn't make sense. The Burn Trap ending no longer is canon, and there goes William Afton. If I was to say it was some random guy trying to expand his wealth, it doesn't make sense. Why would someone purchase a business with a super awful history and try to revive it? It would be easier to just start new. They wouldn't have the passion or drive to overcome all these obstacles, and it doesn't explain the purposeful introduction of the old circuit boards containing Glitch Trap. There are only 2 possible scenarios that I see working. Scenario number 1. We have a mysterious person with a knowledge and possible history with the old FNAF. This person possibly knew or heard about the stories of William Afton, Henry Emily, and maybe Michael Afton. This mysterious figure may have been able to convince some investors that picking up the remains of what Fazbear Entertainment left behind is a smart move because of their prior experience and the plan that they have. They secured funding to purchase the rights to Fazbear Entertainment, FNAF 6's physical location, hire a studio to make the games, and build a pizzaplex. This person is using other people's money to execute their master plan, which included having a Glitch Trap infected Vanessa, the Mimic located in the basement, and possibly performing experiments on Glamrock Freddy. Whether you believe it's the same or not is irrelevant. What makes this different from some random person is that this character has a history with Fazbear's and they are using someone else's money to do this all. Scenario number 2 is almost the exact same thing as scenario 1, but they already own the rights to everything Fazbear related. They were able to execute their plan out of their own funding and were doing this without any worry of other investors getting in the way. Now, I personally believe in scenario number 1 because of a message we got in Security Breach labeled All Staff Meeting. It's widely believed that this message refers to a meeting called by Vanny to get rid of any of the employees who may have been suspicious of the company's true intentions. I think along the same lines, but consider if you were someone with a master plan that would definitely fall outside of the range of approval from your bosses. If your employees started becoming curious as to why you hired someone so unqualified for the job of head of security, or maybe why you built upon a very unstable piece of land, you create an excuse to get rid of anyone asking questions and replace them with staff bots. You could also say to any higher-ups that the reason was for cost cutting, and I doubt they would look any further. However, everything fell apart when Gregory defeated Glitchtrap, and the Tangle or Blob, whatever you want to call it, burrowed its way out of the FNAF 6 pizzeria. But the larger question is still, why is this unknown person doing this all? As I keep going and researching, all I see is just more hard work put toward a master plan that I don't fully understand. And I don't think we are meant to. I truly believe that Help Wanted 2 will be the next piece of the puzzle. And hopefully by the end of the game, we will have a clearer image as to why this all came together. We will learn the true intentions of the mastermind of this entire plot. Was it truly a plan to reunite the Afton family? Or was someone trying to understand the research done on Remnant and Agony? Maybe even a plan to find one of the most advanced pieces of artificial intelligence that had been hidden away underground for years. I don't know, but I applaud Scott and Stewart for leaving behind clues that someone is, or maybe was, orchestrating some larger plot. If you do have any theories or suggestions, I have a community Discord that you can join with the link down in the description where you could share them or just comment down below. Believe it or not, I do read them. So, if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button because I got more where that came from. Remember, this is all a theory. Peace.